The meeting of the Township of Hamilton, Monday, April 1st, 2019. Stand for the flag salute, please. All right, Ronnie?
Yeah.
Time, buddy. Good?
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building and by publication in the press of Atlantic City on January the 10th, 2019, and the Atlantic County Record on January the 16th, 2019. Mr. Gishard?
Present.
Mr. Kurtz?
Here.
Mrs. Link?
Here.
Mr. Silva? Mayor Schenker?
Here. Just so everyone knows, Roger Silva couldn't be here tonight. His wife is having some surgery, so we wish her well and hopefully a speedy recovery. Can we have a moment of silence for private reflection? Thank you. We have a couple proclamations I want to award here tonight. These kids here are so quiet, that's amazing. So first I'd like to bring up a couple young wrestlers. Riley Lerner and Georgia Rowley. So these two young ladies are 7th grade students of William Davies Middle School. They both wrestle for the MLAA Predators wrestling team in the 12-year-old class. March 16th, both Riley and Georgia participated in the Girls USA Wrestling Championship at the Atlantic City Convention Center. Riley, which one is Riley? Won first place champion in 110-pound weight class, where she pinned every opponent, and none were able to score against her. That's pretty good.
Wow.
Georgia won first place champion in 95-pound weight class, pinning every opponent. So, congratulations. I'm very, very proud of you. And listen, we might be able to get you out of bounds somewhere. Yeah. All right, these are my new bodyguards, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody want to get pictures?
I want to get a picture, we'll just...
I'll step out if you want.
Or you get in the middle. I didn't say that.
Good. Very good. Congratulations. I'm going to bring up Coach Marcus Lee. So, Coach, great job here, right? Hamilton Knights basketball team is made up of young men in the 7th and 8th grade. Well-behaved young men, I might add. Season record, 11 wins and 3 losses. The Hamilton Knights won the Cape Atlantic Junior Basketball League Championship on March 3rd, 2019 at Holy Spirit High School, leading Egg Harbor City team in a 56-40 victory. Congratulations.
Guys, come this way. You're all coming this way. Now, just walk right in.
Don't mess, Coach Bobby's here. Good job. Congratulations, guys. Great job. You the center.
This is you the center.
Power forward. Give them out. Just give them out and announce each kid. Let them, let everybody know who they are.
Okay, before I give these out, how about another round of applause for our young ladies? Just a fantastic job. It's awesome when this township does something great, right? And these kids are giving everything and becoming the best in the state and the best in their county. That's just awesome stuff. So this proclamation, the initial proclamation is going to Mr. Jamad Davis. Mr. Jameer Hill. Mr. Tawheed Hill. Mr. Assad Hunt, what is he? Mr. Christian James, there he is. Mr. Javon Johnson, where is he? Jones, Mr. Jones, stop one up. Mr. Marcus Lee Jr. Took off the old block, right? This is your future. Mr. Jeffrey Morano. Mr. Jack O'Brien. We're looking for you at ACIT in a few years. We'll be ready. And Michael. Photo up now.
You know what's cool, Bob? They all got white shirts with collars on.
Isn't that something?
That is something.
I don't know whose idea that was. All right.
Everybody get their pictures? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, and
Thank you.
these gentlemen and these ladies, thank you very much. You made this township very proud.
That's it. You see any winners?
This meeting, move on. Okay, what else? Okay, we're going to move along. We have a guest presentation. Mike is our guest here. I don't.
Yeah, he's behind Charles.
Is he?
He's here, yeah.
Joseph, math.
He's behind Charlie.
Okay. Got caught up.
Here he is. He's like a salmon coming upstream.
Caught up in the crowd. Mr. Matt, you want to come up front? We have a guest presentation, discussion of mortgage programs available for rehabilitation of 1 to 4 family residential properties. Floor is yours. You got to come up to the microphone.
At my expense, okay. Good evening, my name is Moshe Math. I'm one of the co-founders of a nonprofit housing group called Home Initiative. First, I'd like to thank, I know he's not here tonight, Mr. Phil Sartorio, and also Hannah Desmond. I was supposed to be back here January 22nd, and unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond my control, I was not able to make the meeting in time. Hamilton Township is now a redevelopment community, as I understand it, and I made this offer back in November, December. We have offered, if interested by the township, to do seminars for people who own properties that need work. Because there are mortgage programs out there, whether it be a primary, a second, or investment, 1 to 4 family, which lets people, in the case of people who already own properties, refinance and rehab under one program. Or if they want to sell to someone who wants to buy and rehab under one program, they can do that. One of the issues people have is when properties need work, you can't get regular mortgage financing for it because the property has to be structurally sound, has to have everything done, and when it's appraised on when finished, or it's finished at the time of closing. So you have to close with the property in good condition. So if a property needs work, many times the seller doesn't want to do the work, they don't have the money for it, and so forth. So people end up not buying the properties, and what happens instead is investors buy these properties. And of course, when investors buy properties, which I'm not knocking, many times they come in with cash to get a lower price, and that affects the community as well because it affects assessment value over time. With these programs out there, one's called 203K, which is under FHA. Fannie Mae has its own program for primary, second, and in fact, the 203K is exclusively a primary residence program through the FHA. But Fannie Mae, which is conventional, many of you have heard of that term, has their own programs for primary, second, and investor, which allow people to refinance and rehab. The only difference between the Fannie Mae programs is what they call loan to value. The way the programs work is you buy the property, and you go to closing as right away, and the work is done afterwards in an agreed upon period of time. It's viewed by an underwriter, they do an assessment based on what's going to be done, and you're finished. Now let me give you an example. Many people own a home, think they have equity, and they want to get work done. And many times they go to their bank and they try to get an equity line. When a bank does an appraisal or a house, drive by, whatever term you want to use, they don't do it based on when the work is finished. They do it based on what the house is worth now. They give you X amount to use if there's equity, and they say, okay, do what you want. With these programs, they look at the value of the house now also, but they also look at the value when the work is completed, and that's what separates them from a typical equity line situation people may want. The other aspect I will focus on is the fact that the USDA, parts of Hamilton Township fall within the USDA area, and USDA themselves have programs out there that do similar work, as well as for people who can't afford to have homes done. They will do some of the necessary work outside the home. That's under the auspices of Geraldine Manganaro from the USDA. So one of the things we've offered is if you have people who are interested in learning more about it, we'll be glad to hold seminars in a few different parts of Hamilton Township, no charge to the community, to explain these programs for people who are interested. Because many of the banks don't want to do them, because it's tied up for a long period of time. It's not worth it financially because the loan amounts aren't always large enough to make it worth their while. And as I said, it's a challenge for them as well that they're not set up for it. So that's our offer. No cost, no nothing, and I'll be glad to, I'm easily accessible, as many of you know. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just moving off the agenda just for 1 second, Chief Tapner has a public service announcement we'd like to make.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, as many of you know, there was a woman elderly woman who lives on Weymouth Road, Kathleen Elko. She's 85 years old, has dementia. She wandered away from her house. The last time she was seen, we believe she was seen, was Thursday afternoon. We've been searching for multiple days now, and we're still keeping up hope that we're going to locate her. So I just want to keep her name out there. Her photograph and description are on our Facebook page. So I just wanted to get that out there again. Thank you, Mayor.
Early public comment on agenda items excluding items listed for public hearings. Mike?
Yeah, no one has signed up.
No one signed up? All right. Move to 3, discussions, formal actions may be taken. Item A, proposed ordinance amending Chapter 203 Land Use and Development to adopt standards for solar panels, satellite dishes, and similar equipment to the historic district. This will be ordinance 1900-2019 with a public hearing date of April 15th, 2019 if introduced. So I guess this is just basically allowing the use of, this was not part of the ordinance prior?
I think it outlines where you can and cannot locate this equipment in the historic district.
Okay.
Mayor, this came before the planning board, and then it was sent back to committee at the planning board level. The planning board took a look at it, and it was decided that the ordinance seemed okay in its existing form, and that any changes that would be required would be done specifically to whatever request was coming in from the person on where something was going to be located on the building, treated as a specific type application rather than so that the ordinance could stay in the existing form as we have it tonight, that we could approve any changes on a site-specific plan.
Okay, so they're looking to not adopt this into the ordinance?
Well, I believe that we actually do want to
Okay.
Yes.
adopt this in with the changes as they exist, but the planning board decided not to make any changes to it, so to just treat each application on its independent presentation.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a comment.
We're not going to
If
amend?
we don't publish this ordinance, how will people know what the requirements are?
Well, the requirements were in the existing ordinance, and this just allows to take a look at the solar dishes. We talked about the solar dishes, antennas. There's so many questions come up at the meeting at the planning board to look at. Rather than to change the ordinance, they decided that it would be better to adopt it the way it is, and then anything that comes before the board would be treated specifically. Like if someone wanted to put up a radio antenna on the roof or a satellite dish that could be visible from the street, then they would have to deal with it at that time when they
So,
presented that.
you
And Hannah's here. I mean, I think we're kind of got this wrapped up that way.
So
Can Hannah come up
if
and
this
talk
ordinance were
about it?
adopted, then that wouldn't be possible?
Is what?
If this ordinance were adopted, then the approach you suggested would not be possible?
No, they could be possible, but they'd have to come back before the board.
Okay.
Can Hannah give us an explanation?
I'm a little nervous right now. So I guess what's in place right now doesn't actually address solar panels in the historic districts. So what this is going to say is that folks who are coming in for applications, they can have some type of standards in place. So right now, if someone came into our office for solar panels and they're in a property that is in the historic district, there's nothing that says they can't and nothing that says they're not, they are allowed to have them.
Okay.
So right now, it's really difficult. So when folks come in, the historic district sort of arbitrarily denies them or approves them if they're in, out of sight. So this is going to establish regulations for them so
Right.
that when people want to get them, they're able to have something to go off of. So it's just cleaning up basically
So
an
you're in
existing
favor of
code.
this?
I'm sorry?
You're in favor of this?
I would be, because it gives everyone something to point to in the code.
Okay.
So right now, there's nothing there.
It's just not addressed.
Right, like I say, if someone comes in and wants to put solar panels up, there's nothing that says they can have it or not. So at this point, it's kind of the historic district's prerogative to allow them or not allow them.
Okay.
Okay, very good. So formal action can be taken. What's your pleasure, committee?
Move to adopt the ordinance, have a hearing on the ordinance.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance, or move the ordinance. Your roll call vote, Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
Ordinance is introduced at public hearing April the 15th.
Thank you, Rita. All right, we'll move on to number 4, public hearing, adoption of ordinances. Ordinance 1898, 2019, an ordinance amending Exhibit A, Section 1, Article 2 of Chapter 66 of the Code of Hamilton Township, providing for maximum number of employees. Yeah, a little
Mr. Mayor.
background, Mike?
Yes, this ordinance does several things. The first is it changes the reporting structure for the fire official and the construction official.
Okay.
From the Director of Community Development to the Administrator.
Right.
So they'll report directly to the Administrator. The second part is it changes one of our job descriptions in the, or job titles in Public Works, the Operations Supervisor. It changes it to Administrative Operations Supervisor and increases the maximum salary that's allowable for that position.
Okay.
So that's the extent of the ordinance.
Okay. So this is a public hearing. Anybody like to speak on this? Yes, Jim?
Mike, how many employees does the township have now?
Oh, I apologize. This ordinance doesn't change the total count of employees. That's just the title of the ordinance. But to answer your question, I think it's 118.
Okay, that's perfect.
And this
This
doesn't
is more a
change.
restructuring thing, Jim?
Okay. I thought it's higher than that. Okay,
No, 118 full-time employees.
okay.
Anyone else in the public like to speak on this?
Motion to close public portion?
Second?
A motion to close public portion, a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
I'll make a motion for the adoption of ordinance number 1898-2019.
We have a motion, second. Any questions? Rita, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and adopted.
Thank you. We'll jump to number 6, awards of bids, contracts, and change orders. A, rescind Resolution 2019-0142 to extend animal control contract to the period of April 1st, 2019 to April 30th, 2019 with Sure Vet Animal Control. Mike, you want to explain this one, please?
Yes, sir, Mayor. We approved it at the last meeting, but they've declined to do it monthly.
Okay.
So we're
All right, very good.
sending that.
Right, so moved.
We have a motion
Second?
and a second. Any questions? We need a roll call? Yeah? Let's do a roll call, Rita.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
And Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carry.
B, resolution authorizing animal control of South Jersey to perform township dog warden and general animal control officer services for the Township of Hamilton, April 1st, 2019 through April 30th, 2019, in the amount of $2,200.
So moved.
Second.
So obviously, this is the company we got to do it for the month until we get
all the paperwork in,
Right.
yes.
Just through April 30th.
This is just for the month of April.
Okay.
We'll be at the next meeting, there'll probably be a one-year contract proposed.
Okay,
And,
so the
uh,
one-year contract is coming. All right, very good. Did we get a motion?
Yeah, motion.
Motion and a second.
Motion and a second.
Are there any questions? Rita, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
And Mayor Schenker?
Yes.
All yes and carry.
Thank you. C, resolution authorizing the township engineer to prepare engineering plans and bid specifications for ADA improvements at the Alfred Lundy Community Center in the amount not to exceed $6,000. I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a CDBG project.
Yes.
Yes, so moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing no questions. Rita, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
And Mayor Schenker?
Yes.
All yes and carry.
D, resolution awarding contract for turf management at Hamilton Recreational Facility to South Jersey Turf Consultants in the amount not to exceed $22,546.25. Mike?
This is a new program for us. Usually we just seed it and fertilize. This is full maintenance or a full year's worth of service to these fields, to the playing fields.
Okay.
And they need to start that like right away.
They need to start
Tomorrow.
trying to do it, yes.
Okay,
What is it?
are these guaranteed, turf does not always take, as I know from
They're not
experience.
replacing the turf, Judy. They're just treating
They're
it.
not putting new sod down. They're just.
Oh, they're not
cleaning and
putting new
trimming.
sod there?
It's fertilizing, grub control.
Oh, okay, well, I
okay.
misunderstood. I thought they were doing the whole enchilada.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we'll visit this again, see how this works out, and see if there's improvements, which I'm hoping there will be.
What is the cost per acre?
Wow. I don't know the acres. I don't know the answer to that.
Let's see,
Is
tabernacle.
there any kind of warranty associated with this? That will have beautiful turf when they're finished?
I don't think they can warranty it. I think you basically would decide next year whether it was a satisfactory investment or not. I don't think they warranty it in advance.
They need it, right?
Because, I mean, a lot of things go into it, like rain and irrigation, things like that.
All right, what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to award that contract.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? No questions. Rita, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
And Mayor Schenker?
Yes.
All yes and carry.
Number 7, consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through I.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and second. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Number 8, personnel. Resolution to hire Charles Deal as temporary full-time laborer for the Public Works Department at $15 an hour. Effective date to be determined. This is a position we've had
It's
open for a little
to fill
bit
a
now?
vacancy.
Yeah.
Yes. It's just a temporary, or, it's full-time but temporary. 11 months.
Has Charles Steele, is he working for the township president?
No, this is a new
A
hire.
new hire?
Yes.
I move to adopt the resolution.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Rita, could you do a roll call vote, please? Thank you.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
And Mayor Schenker?
Yes.
All yes and carry.
9, approvals. Under A, minutes of March 11th, 2019 special meeting. That was the meeting with Jim Malley.
So moved.
Second.
Their motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? The ayes have it. B, minutes of March 18, 2019 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. C, payroll and bills. Bill list total, $977,360.13.
Move to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Rita, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Kishore.
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz.
Yes.
Mrs. Link.
Yes.
And Mayor Schenker.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. We'll move on to number 10, reports. Mr. Administrator.
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Solicitor.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Mr. Engineer.
Yeah, Mayor and Committee, I have a few items. The first is the chiller replacement project. The chiller arrived at Gaudelli Brothers storage yard in Vineland this past week. They are coming tomorrow morning to start disassembling, disconnecting the chiller. Wednesday morning, they are going to bring the replacement chiller. There'll be a crane there. They're going to remove the old chiller, set the new chiller, work on it Wednesday and Thursday. That gives us Friday as sort of a slack day in case we need it. I've had a lot of conversations. We've really tried to work a schedule that fits with the weather, with Public Works. Brett's going to need to give us a little assistance. They've given us a plan of the parking lot, what areas they need sectioned off. So there's about 10 parking spaces for a couple of days that we're going to not have the use of. But we try to coordinate this as best we can and not expecting a good, clean project here. And I'm glad it's not too hot, because we would have had a little bit of a situation here if we missed the timing of the weather.
And it'll require closing the back entrances?
It will. So, and I'm working close with Brett on that. In my report, I said I wanted to do a verbal because it changed. From late last week, every couple hours it changed. But we think the best window is to start tomorrow morning and hopefully finish Thursday with that extra day Friday.
Very good.
Next item is Tavistock. I've been in communication with Arawak. We tentatively have set up a pre-construction meeting for this Thursday. I'm just having a little difficulty getting a hold of Lou DeChico. I've left a few messages. So that Thursday date could possibly get pushed out a day or two, but Arawak is ready to start the project. And we're actually that.
Yeah, they'll be happy to hear that.
Yeah. John Brooks Recovery Center, we had a pre-construction meeting last Thursday. That's the 58,000 square foot private alcohol and psychiatric treatment facility that's coming into our business and industrial park. They're going to start April 15th. It's an 11-month project. So it's on Pinewood Boulevard. Chancellor's Place in Atlantic Electric. I'm in communication with Atlantic Electric. I know Caroline Downs is here in the audience tonight. I'm here for whatever help they need when they finally put an engineer in place to start working on their situation out there. But I'm on standby whenever they need me.
Okay.
Main Street and Linwood Avenue, that's the manhole that Verizon has agreed to put a drain line in to connect into one of our storm inlets. As soon as they receive the DOT permit, they will be out there.
How long of a project is that?
One-day project.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, we
Right
can't
on
keep Main Street
yeah.
shut down for more than that. It'll be less than that. Construction projects, Buffalo Pike Associates, Benderson project, they requested a release of the performance bond, so we'll go through the inspection on that in a week or two. Outback Steakhouse is kind of moving along at a moderate pace. They're working weekends on the buildings out there, on the building, and the site work seems to be picking up a little bit. So we're expecting, they're saying May is when they want to open up. So we'll see. That's basically it. I just had a few street opening permits that have opened up. That's generally my report.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
I have a question. Along 13th, there are a lot of red and orange flags all the way along. What is that all about?
I don't know. This is 13th and...
13th, it ends at Park.
Okay. I will find out.
It's probably the work that they did excavating for drainage along near that driveway. They excavated
the whole
and put in a drain. Public Works did.
Oh, they're going to put in a drain?
They already did. I think they already did.
Tanglewood?
No.
Yeah.
Well, it's
It's, yeah,
Okay, it's Tanglewood, yeah, okay.
It takes a jog, and at that point, by Doug Servy's house. That on Tanglewood. We were out there about a week and a half ago. We did some subsurface evaluation, and Brett was out there. We Public Works excavated to see where the clay ended and the sand picked up, and it was down about 8 feet. So Brett was able to excavate some of the clay and put some stone in next to the seepage pits, and I see that it's given Doug Servy and a couple of other neighbors a little bit of relief.
Right,
We're
but
trying
now
to solve that water laying problem on Tanglewood.
yeah, that was on the other side. In other words, where they did the excavation that I saw was on, if you're heading down towards Park, it was on the right-hand side, but on the left, there are all these flags. So they are going to be, or is it draining into dry run?
No, it's not. All the flags that you saw where that was the mark out, all the utility companies. As a matter of fact, that Friday we went out there to dig, there were no flags in the area we wanted to dig, so Brett called the emergency number and they came out. They failed to locate some of the utilities. And Brett was pretty, astute to realize that. We're trying to be as cost effective as we can. And we're trying to solve the problem. So
Yeah,
we're
that's
going to
been a
take
long-
a stepped approach. So
It's been a long problem.
it's been a long problem, and we're trying to solve it with, the most cost-effective, least amount of dollars. The cost to run a pipe is expensive, and the DEP permits are $18,000 to run that pipe where you're talking about, but we're going to keep working and trying to find a solution.
Okay.
I told the Brett about it at least once a week, and I'm in constant contact with Doug Serv.
Okay.
I have a question on the administrator's report. The cotton mill pre-application meeting, which Hannah attended. I wonder if you could give us a synopsis of what happened, the cotton mill.
You-
So what happened was Phil and I went over to the DEP, and they basically are in discussion with a proposal for that site to have I think 90 to 100 unit residential units in there. I think they originally proposed upwards of 200 years and years ago. That was I think 2009, something like that, between 07 and 2009. And I guess they've revised that to be more conservative. And basically the meeting was about the permits they would need. They had identified the two waterways that are adjacent to the building, which include the Great Egg Harbor River and Lake Lenape. So the DEP was just telling them these are the permits that you would need to get. They would include tidelands, waterfront development, and some dam safety permits. So it's all kind of, letting them know what they need to get done. They didn't have a newer site plan to show what their development would look like. It was based on I think the original one, the site years and years ago. So they were identifying, what buildings are still there, what they don't, sorry. I think that's it. There were also, I think, stormwater issues too that they had to talk to them about, presence of wildlife, things like that. So it was all preliminary. I think we're going to have another meeting with Pinelands at some point. They might, so it's kind of in the early stages of it, but I'll definitely report back if there's anything else.
Thank you. Does that seem to be moving along?
It does. It seems to be, but especially now. I think that for them, it was the opportunity wasn't there back in the day, you know, when they originally came in. So now it seems like they're more able to get it done with it. So I think they have some future plans for the site as well, in addition to the residential. So they're just, you know, considering all their options.
Good.
The cotton mill, you're talking about Wheaton's, aren't you?
Yep.
Yes.
When does this meeting take place?
This took place on the 26th of March.
Was that meeting sent out to everybody?
It was a DEP meeting.
It's a DEP meeting with Phil, myself, and their representatives
It's in Trenton.
in Trenton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are these the same owners that owned that property before, or are they going to convey it to somebody else?
I think they're the same.
I believe it
whatever.
is the same owners.
Yeah,
They've decided to do something after many years?
right. They like I
Send them a
said-
little encouragement.
Right, they had a I think interest in it back in, I think it was between 2007 and 2009. And then I think the economy didn't necessarily go the right way for them.
Yeah,
so
it
then
was
now
before
they're-
then.
Yeah.
It was before then.
Right.
We've been following that for a long
I
time.
know they sent Phil an email a month or so ago about these meetings that you're talking about. It's nice to see them moving as quickly as they're moving.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Good.
DEP, Pinelands, this is a process, so this isn't all happening tomorrow, but they're moving on it. So that's
Yeah.
really good to see.
Sure.
From a project that was going nowheres to now we're seeing some movement, so that's good.
Yeah.
And Hannah, I was on the planning board when that process came before the planning board. I have the original plans, so it's good to hear that they're not going too far from what they originally
Yeah.
thought they were going to do.
Right.
And I believe some of the issue at that time was COA requiring them to make 15% of the dwellings
Right.
low-income housing. So I'm hoping maybe that
I-
changed a little bit for them too.
I think it did.
Satisfied
I
that?
think it went to 10 or some, there might be
Yeah.
I
15 was like
I
a
think I
crazy number, and
yeah.
they tried to get it down, yeah.
Right. I definitely think the number has been adjusted from what I remember with when Phil and I were talking about it.
Is that
So-
low income or affordable housing?
No, it's low income.
Low, at that site, low income?
COA.
Oh, you're talking about
Yeah,
COA.
it's affordable housing, but they're designated lower income units.
If I could, I had a chance to meet with Phil last week before he left, and I, on the development side, I've done a lot of those DEP meetings. It's called a pre-application meeting where
Right.
they assemble everybody from all the departments from DEP. Phil told me how positive the meeting was,
It
too.
was, yeah.
Like, the questions that they have are, you know, the site is in the floodplain, so tell us what you're going to do in the floodplain. There's no habitable units in the floodplain, it's going to be the parking below the building. So that was like, that checked off in DEP's mind, that there's no problem. Endangered species chimed in and said, you know, there's eagle foraging habitat in the area, so they said, if you trim any trees, you have to do it during these certain months of the year. So it was a very positive meeting. Now, tomorrow
Have they
morning-
seen the lot?
Tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, they're coming to, there's a planning board development review committee that I'll be at. So they're moving ahead. In other words,
good.
If it didn't go well last week at DEP, they would not have been, you know, they
Right.
would have canceled this meeting they're scheduled for.
And that was their
tomorrow.
comment in the email was, you know, our plans are to move forward, but we got these hurdles. So if they're not big hurdles, then you might see some good movement here. So that's good.
And one more question on the administrator's report, Mayor. That's, there's a letter being sent out opposing the use of marijuana, recreational use of marijuana. Just wonder if you comment on why that being put together.
Yeah, no letters being sent out. A resolution is being drafted for committee to consider,
Okay,
and it's not been in front of you yet. One of the committee members asked to put it together.
okay.
So you'll vote on it.
All right, thank you.
All right. Township committee members, Judy?
Yeah, I noticed here in the current that they had the book fair, and I thought that was great. the more our children read books instead of playing with iPads, the greater it is. And I think they had 400 people in attendance, which was a fantastic thing. We have to really encourage our children to read and to put down those iPads. I know that they are very, they like them a lot, and they play with them a lot, but we need to have them read more. So that's my comment. I'd like to be abreast of the things that are happening with the with Wheaton's. That was a project that when my husband was on the planning board several years ago, that was brought before him, and we've been following him, actually have some of the older plans. And I know every time I've asked about it, it has, I've been told that the people are not moving on that project, that they're, you know, the economic climate is not there, but I'm just really happy, and I'm really interested in following all its movements. So I would like to be abreast of those things.
I will send an email out after I leave the meeting tomorrow with a full update to the committee and the mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Good, Judy? John?
I just want to, on the Wheaton's products, I want to just say thanks to the mayor for kind of shaking the tree a little bit on the Wheaton's deal, and it sounds like they're interested now in moving things the right way. So it's good to see that happen. It's been sitting there for such a long time as an eyesore. The other thing is the Township of Hamilton Historical Society, as part of the consent agenda, we approved a coin drop for them on May 25th. I just wanted to emphasize that the Historical Society in our town, who John Ash is involved a lot in, Cheryl Fetty, there's a lot of really good members in town that work on that. But, you know, they try to keep up the little schoolhouse building where the museum is, and they're extremely, extremely tight in their budget. So this would be a big plus to them, and I'm hoping that if you see them out there on the 25th, the public can support them. They really need funds to kind of move the society along. They do a great bit of help here in our town. And that's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Rodney?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with John Kurtz about the Historical Society. They're a real treasure here in Hamilton Township. The Senior Citizens Advisory Committee conducted a survey to find out what kind of efforts or what kind of events seniors would like to have, and they decided to have a dessert night of all things, which may be in the Methodist Church. They're working on that in the month of May. So you can look for some kind of dessert night in the month of May from the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee. Also, I see that we're approaching the Green Day again, April 17th, which the...
No, it isn't this.
Oh, I see.
27.
27th, thank you.
Okay.
Which the Green Team will be working on, and where you have a chance to shred your papers and turn in your recycled electronics. So keep that date in mind.
I have a lot of papers.
The VFW had a wedding reception in their newly renovated hall, and the hall is beautiful. This is from the donation from Home Depot. It's new walls, and they did a great job. It's beautiful now. If you get a chance, take a look at it. It's a good place to rent. And the Veterans Advisory Board is working on the Memorial Day in May. Okay, that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Rodney. I just want to make a comment about the mill, as they call it. We did talk to them, encourage them to move forward. I'm glad to see that they were seeing things our way, so to speak. I also let them know that anything that we can do as a township to help them with this project, we're here for them. We want to see this done. And to see that they're moving forward with their original plans, more or less, is good. It's going to be good for the township and especially good for that area. So it's just another example of us getting aggressive with these type of things and trying to move the township forward, trying to make things a little nicer. So it's good to hear. It's good to hear, and you know, give credit to Phil Santorio, who really got out in front and pushed it. And I'm sure Hannah will be right there behind him, so thank you. I want to open up to public comment. Anybody in the public like to speak?
Motion to close public portion?
Second.
Motion and a second to close public portion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion for adjournment is in order.
Motion to adjourn?
A motion, a second.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, everyone.